Alrighty, I think it's working now. Okay. Boomer time. Hashtag boomer. You know, I've promoted a lot of doom and gloom. I have. Because I'm a fairly gloomy person. I'm a fairly selfish jackass. I'll just be honest with you. I am. I'm a selfish jackass who probably is on the edge of sociopathy. I'm just being honest. It's not very nice to say, but it's one of those end of the year type of things that you just have to admit what you are. But I think it's important. And I think this is something that Wignats have tried to do, but they say it in such a bass, awkward sort of way. And ultimately, Wignats are probably ironically the most, they hate white people more than, to a point, I think, probably hate white people in the United States or in Europe far more than far more than black nationalists or anything else. Because once they find out about all this stuff and this, like, look how proud we were, and now look at us, and they become the most black pilled sort of folks. That's why some of them become these fucking pagans who, unironically are like, well, actually, the Hinduism is actually, the white man's religion because of Indo-Aryanism. It's just, anyway, beyond that, sorry. I wanted to be funny and say that, but let me get to the actual meat of the thing. Y'all see the title. It sounds kind of anarchist-y, but I think that there is truth to it. You got to have faith in the people and not the state. As most United States citizens or Americans, I know America's a continent, and I always try to, anyway, but as we wait for the United States, the Congress now to get through, and now going through the Senate, and we see that McConnell has blocked getting these $2,000 checks. We say to ourselves, where are we at? Where is the United States at? And like I say, we have to look beyond the state. We have to look beyond that because the state itself does not do much. And the thing is, it's like, I'm going to say this, and it's not going to be it's not going to be like Bo the Fifth Column in his video where it's just like, it's up to the people to reverse these things, both the Democrats and Republicans. It's like, look, he reads a fucking speech, people write his shit for him, so I put that in perspective. But anyway, I believe in the the resourcefulness of ordinary people. Regardless of whether I agree with them or not on anything, who gives a fuck about that? If you have a good idea, shit, I'm going to follow you. I don't give a fuck who you are. We could disagree on everything, but it's like, if you have a smart idea that's going to improve my life, I'll be like, hell yeah, I'm going to follow you. Or maybe be like, okay, maybe I can tweak this a little bit and try to make it work. But it's like, okay, it's like, that's what I learned on the job. It's like, oh, that's a good idea how he's doing, it's like, working in manufacturing or something like that. Oh, I see how he's doing that. That's a good idea. Oh, okay. I'm going to do it like him. All right. And so, that's what people do. And like I say, maybe I'm using this in such a vague way, but I'm trying to be a little bit more concrete. But I have faith in people's ingenuity. And I have faith in people to not be curmudgeons like me, who are kind of still hold some Wignat views, but also are trying to realize that, these silly culture wars about mud. I'll just edit that down a little bit. Sorry. Okay. So what I meant to say is that, ingenuity can be whatever you want it to be, basically. But if that means living in a small house, okay, that's something. Or if people will find ways to fix roads, then yeah, that should be done. You shouldn't just rely on the state and think that everything's going to be better because of that. I think one of the biggest problems in the United States is that we have forgotten about the ingenuity. And I know this is something conservatives talk about as well, but I'm going to try to spin it in my own way. But, the ingenuity to be able to build our own stuff and to make it work and doing the trial and error and not just relying on, some big company to do it. Just individuals doing that stuff. And I know people are doing it. I know it's out there. It's just not as well seen, or it's being promoted by a handful of people. But it's being done. Trying to make cars more efficient. There was a time, it's like, running cars on cooking oil or something like that. And like I say, I've talked a lot of doom and gloom, but I think that you do have to have faith in people to find a way to make society work, and to keep the trains running, as they say. You know, I was going to say basically, maybe this is somewhat backwards, but as much as I disagree with all the other faithwa that's out there, is that the culture wars are a distraction. And I know Vosh has said this point, but I do think that culture wars are a distraction. But ultimately, he's not going to do anything to change that, because ultimately he pushes for the culture war. He can say it's a distraction all he wants to, and then we'll dab on conservatives. So it's like, well, okay. But it's just one of these things where you have to be realistic. And you're just like, okay, I got to bite the bullet and just be like, all right, this is the direction we have to go in. I think the United States still has potential. Are we going to be, 1950s America where, this imagined idea that was actually pretty bad? Or, like I say, I think that we have to create a new version of the United States. And it's going to have to be done on a city and grassroots level, and maybe even, like a county level versus a nationwide level. Because obviously we know that there's plenty of hatred that exists. There's plenty of elitism. You'll get these, you'll get plenty of these liberals. And I say that word, or these shit liberals, the ones that, the real Biden 2020 hashtag resistance type folks who were, they will still look down upon, people who live in Kentucky. They'll look down on people who live in, a rundown house, but they have a Trump 2020 flag. They look down on these folks. And they don't want to talk to them. They want to hold their, their arrogance above their head and say, oh, well, I live in a better place than you. We have better health care than you. Yeah. But yeah, that's just kind of the way it is, I think. I'm not going to make this, like I said, I don't know what 20 minutes long. I'm already pushing the 10-minute mark. But basically it's going to have to be on a smaller level. And it's going to have to come from ordinary people who decide what to do. And they can't just follow the same blueprint that somewhere else did. It's going to have to be regional. We're going to have to find that regional nostalgia again, where, you can't just rely on going to KFC or something like that. It's like, I mean, if you're like, it's like if you live in Louisiana, you got the rich Acadian culture. You have you have Cajun, the Cajun culture as well. You have all that sort of stuff. I think that exists. Of course, it still exists, but it has to be promoted on a bigger level. Oklahoma. I know that Hello 99. I think it's Hello 99. I think he changed his handle. But when he needs to promote more is the uh, for like the Indian identity, the native identity, and trying to find some sort of alliance between the tribes, whether that be the Comanches, Kiowa, et cetera, and trying to find those aspects. Will it work completely? No, no. But at least the effort was made to try to do something different. You know, it's like even with Texas, Tejano, you know, a state which is going to be, that has its own issues and everything else, being one of the biggest polluter. I think it's number one polluter, second to California in terms of, using coal and stuff like that. But I think that, it just needs to be a regional aspect. And I think regionalism and localism is the future. That's the fact of the matter, because other areas are going to be left behind. That's the reality. When we try to have no child left behind, from G.W. Bush or something, it doesn't mean anything. You know, it's like California will get plenty of relief, for New York or whichever, other states will. Other states will be left behind though, and that's the fact of the matter. And that's the real balkanization, where you can't just rely on some larger American identity. That's dying. We know that. But regionalism will be the future. And people like me who are a bit too cosmopolitan will have to find their way in it. But I think that that's the future of the United States. Regionalism is the future. And we just have to face the facts. And I hope that, if nothing else, I hope regionalism does take off, and having the ingenuity take off for nothing else than to keep people where they are so that they can build a life and not have to go and be a stranger and feel like a ghost living in a big city, where everybody has to go to Dallas Fort Worth to get a job. Or it's like if you live in, I don't know, let's say you live in Kansas or something like that, and you feel like, well, all I can do is go to, I don't know, go to Kansas City or something like that, or whatever, and to build opportunities where you are. Is that easy? Absolutely not. I know that this sounds kind of conservative-esque, but I feel like that's hopefully, hopefully, I repeat that twice because I do hope that is the future that the people that live in the United States have, where they can build a legitimate regionalism without just making it based on race. I know, oh boy, here we go. I know, but not just having it based on race, but having it based on a regional history and teaching a regional history. Not just for a test. I think that's one of the biggest problems with education today, is that it's just based on a test, where it's like, I knew enough for the test, but now I don't remember anything. And that's the problem. You take things just for a test so that you can pass it, and nobody gives a crap about actually learning anything. It's just about a score, you know. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I hope that was a little bit more inspiring, because I know, like I say, I've really been kind of China booing it up a little bit and kind of just saying, hey, oh, look at China. Oh. It's like, yeah, China's doing great things, but it's like the United States can find a different sort of prosperity. It's just going to take some work, and it's going to take some elbow grease. And it's going to take having to break people from thinking about national politics, where it's like, well, we need to be worried about what, Obama's doing, or we need to be worried about what Biden's going to do for us. He's not going to do much for you. Build something locally. And it is happening. And even with the whole, it's like, being a left-wing person, it's like, Build something locally. Don't worry, don't be so concerned and go into the big city and try to fight fascists and whatnot. Why don't you, instead of going out and trying to fight fascists, why don't you go out and plant a tree or to volunteer at a shelter? I'm sure I know that lefties are doing that, but it's like, instead of being worried about doxing people, why don't you actually do something for people so that you can change your image? I know it's a radical concept, but anyway, I hope that's a little bit more positive because I feel like I need to put some better energy out there. So hopefully I'll do that. Like I said, I will edit out that bit there where I accidentally turn off the bit. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoy that. See you later and goodbye.